Good evening, everybody. I really, truly appreciate you coming. Before we go any farther, I'd like to ask my good friend Jeff to come up here, and if he'd ask the blessing over this meeting tonight, I would appreciate it so much. Either one's fine, Jeff.
Would you pray? Lord, this is what we know about this community, that this many people would come out to support something this important. Lord, we just thank you so much for the blessing of an amazing school district. I personally can't think of a better school district to have raised our children in. I thank you, Lord, for this community. I thank you for our children. And Lord, and we absolutely, as parents and grandparents, we want what's best for our kids and for the future of our community. Lord, I just thank you so much that you have brought us all out here tonight. I thank you that we live in an amazing country like this, Lord, where we can, as adults, we can disagree and still be civil, and more than civil, Lord, that we can disagree and still love each other. And so, Lord, I pray that you will show that here tonight. No matter what the discussions are, Lord, no matter what the issues that are brought up are, no matter what questions we have, Lord, that this will be done in a loving and caring way, that this is far beyond each of us here tonight. This is about our children. This is about our grandchildren. This is the decisions that this board, Lord, is going to be making in the next, even in the next year, is going to affect potentially generations here to come. And so, Lord, I just pray that you be with us. We thank you for this opportunity, Lord. We know that this is a gift from you, that we get this opportunity to be here tonight. Lord, I pray your blessing on each of these candidates and on their families, on their homes, Lord, that they will make decisions that are glorifying to you, edifying for our children, and Lord, all done in a way that they seek after you with their whole hearts. Lord, we love you, we thank you, and we pray these things in the precious and powerful name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
God bless you. Thank you. I'd like to ask if y'all would say the pledge with me, if you wouldn't mind. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for coming. This serious bit is new to me. I've been serious maybe 3 or 4 times in my whole life. But this is important. I got some big dogs in this hunt. The most valuable things in my life are in this hunt. I'm a Marianne Elementary Jaguar, all the way up through Licking Valley. I've been in this community my whole life. I've played football here. I've coached for, I don't even know how many years I've coached. And I've watched this community come together in terrible times. I've watched people have sick kids, and I've watched people who didn't know them show up to help. I've been at a meeting. We had a kid that got sick in my own son's class. A week later, we didn't have time to throw nothing together. I brought some speakers and a guitar. A bunch of people ran all over town getting stuff to auction off. A bunch of people made some spaghetti, and we made almost $40,000 for that family in one night. That's the Licking Valley I know. It's great. I love it here. I've been asked, and this is not about me, so I had thought I was going to come up and sing you some songs and stuff like that, but it's about them. It's about you. I've been asked 100 times, why wouldn't you go to Nashville? If that's your dream, why wouldn't you live there? And the answer is the same every time, because I don't want my kids going to school there. I want my kids going to school here. I had a suit laid out tonight, and I changed it. And then Drake, this is about me. You ruined my joke.
Sorry.
But I was gonna say, that's not me. And emulating the way they do it in the big city is the fastest way we can ruin Licking Valley. People are leaving the big city in droves to come here. You don't see any Licking Valley people leaving Licking Valley in droves to go there. And I don't think it's on account of we got a Family Dollar. We got something here, and people see it. And that's why they're coming. We got something amazing here. So, why am I doing this? Because I was telling these candidates, I know 90% of this crowd, and granted, I'm putting it on so it stands to reason that my friends come, but I see a lot of people that I haven't talked to in years here. But that's this community. It's tight. And I'm seeing a divide come in that I don't like seeing. And people are feeling like they're being drowned out. And they're, well, it doesn't matter. I don't like what's going on, but I don't got a say. Well, you do have a say, and that's why we're doing this. This is our boat. The point of tonight is for us. It's for the benefit of the children. But the point of a school board member is not to do for the children. If it were, we'd have pizza and recess all day. Ice cream. We were doing what's best for the children by way of their parents. The reason that our school is good is because our community is good, not vice versa. And that's not a condemnation on the school. We're a collection of wonderful people. So I'm going to ask that I've thrown away 5 speeches today. I've written so much stuff that I wanted to say, and I'm not reading none of it because it's just, this is our boat, this school. And the direction, the course that we set is in direct correlation with who we elect. The point of a school board is their representatives for our values in the community. And so that's why I wanted these people to come. And I want you to listen to their values and their direction for this boat that's our boat. And I want you to decide which of them his values reflect most closely with our own and your own. And I would also like to ask if I can make it through a speech without telling jokes. I think that's so far out of my comfort zone you don't even know. It's usually my job to go in and throw a grenade in the outhouse and see where everything lands. That's how I do it. So that being said, I'd like you to ask that you would be cordial, respectful. This is our family around here. I don't know how many outsiders came, and I don't know. There's something about what you guys got, but it's magic. And no matter what, we can't let go of it. I'm proud to be from here. I'm not just saying that. This is me. This is home. So I want you to be mindful of your neighbor. I've already talked too long. I want you to have your questions be concise. What we're going to do, these guys drew numbers in the order they sat. They're each going to get up and talk for 5 minutes. Then you're going to come up and address your questions. It's going to be a little chaotic because they're going to have to get up and sit down, but I don't want one person dominating all the question stuff. So after that, you'll raise your hand and come up. I'm sure there's a million people have questions. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce each one of these guys first. Mr. Drake McCarter on that end. Mr. Yeah. I've never been in front of a microphone this long with no applause. I'm really nervous. Mr. Casey Williams. Mrs. Julie Stedman. Jolynn said, just say Jolynn. Miss Jolynn Torbert. Miss Deb Dingus. Miss Carolyn Kohler. Now I'm going to get out of the way and let Mr. Drake McCarter give his speech.
Hope mine is as good as yours, Brian. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. Special thanks to Brian, Nicole, and everyone else who helped put this together tonight. It's a great display of how much our community does care about our school system. Like Brian said, my name is Drake McCarter. I graduated from Licking Valley in 2012. I attended Licking Valley all the way from kindergarten to graduation. During my junior and senior years, I served as the student school board member and learned about the duties and responsibilities of a school board. Now, I am running for the school board because I have a sense of duty to further my service to my community. I believe that the main reason why we have a successful school system and community is because we have always had the people that are willing to dedicate themselves to it in any way possible. I've had the privilege to be an active member in our community through sports, 4-H, and various other community activities. I've helped coach the girls' soccer team. I'm now a 4-H advisor for our Barnyard Buddies 4-H club. Through these experiences, I've had the opportunity to work with the youth in our community to help better develop themselves and teach them the necessary skills of responsibility, citizenship, organization, and teamwork. As a school board member, I'll be a voice for all members in our community on our school policies and decisions. I believe that the prime responsibilities of a school board member are to make sure the board policies are being followed at all levels and to oversee the decisions of our superintendent and treasurer. I will strive to help improve the lines of communication between the school board, the administration, teachers, parents, staff, students, everybody, in order to help reduce the amount of confusion and distort that this pandemic has caused. I want to make sure the school board and superintendent's office makes the public aware of policies and guidelines from the state and county offices so it is understood why the school is handling situations in specific ways. I will always ensure the opinions and concerns of community members are heard and addressed. In respect to finances, thanks to Jolynn, our Licking Valley Treasurer's Office has always handled our finances responsibly for many years, and that's a big reason why our district has been so successful. We need to make sure that our board continues to make sound financial decisions that put the best resources in our classroom for our present teachers and students, as well as making future investments for our future generations of students. In respect to COVID, I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not here to debate the science behind the virus. I understand that for every finding or statement that is put out, an article can be found to dispute it. The one thing that I am certain of is that we have to make sure that we cannot take our frustrations of DC and Columbus out on our local communities. All of our families are dealing with the anxieties and anger of how much our lives have changed. I support keeping our students in the classroom at all possible. This is where the teachers can provide the best learning experience and where our students are going to learn the most material and receive the best need. While keeping our students in the classroom, we need to make sure that we're not only keeping our students safe, but our teachers as well. Because losing our teachers to sickness is the quickest way we're going to go back to remote learning. In respect to learning in the classrooms, I support the board and administration's decisions to use ESSER money to bring additional teachers and resources to our lower grade levels to help make up for disrupted time during the virtual learning. For the middle school and high school, the two greatest skills I believe we could be teaching our students are critical thinking and writing. I believe these skills help students to first take a piece of information and be able to understand its meaning and content. And then from that, they're able to make a decision or find a well-rounded solution based off of the material, and then finally be able to prove their reasoning and conclusions. All of those together are the reasons why I've decided to run. I hope to serve you well as a school board member. Thank you again for being here tonight. I wish my fellow candidates the best of luck, and because we are grateful that even during the challenges that we're all facing, we still have community members that are willing to step up and serve. Thank you.
Mr. Casey Williams.
I'm not going to take any text. I just want to make sure I'm being polite with time. So Hanger, don't text me. There are seats up here for you folks that are in the back. They're right here. There's 3, there's 2, there's 2. You don't have to stand all evening. I don't know why I've written notes. I'm not going to probably go from them other than to mention some names. But in terms of telling you why I'm here, why I'm running for the board, it's a little bit of a difficult process that started last summer in terms of really feeling led that this is something that our family should consider and pray through, and have been very diligent in that, especially over the last 8 to 9 months, meeting with various people and trying to understand, am I qualified and am I credible to fill this position and to serve our amazing community as Drake and Brian have so adequately conveyed. One of the things that it kind of brought me back is really just my own upbringing, and kind of, for those of you that don't know me, when I was 2 months old, my dad died in an oil truck accident off 146. My mom raised 2 youngins, December 20th, 21st, somewhere around there. She had a 2-month-old and a 4.5 or a 5-year-old. I don't know. He was 7 foot tall when he came out of the womb, but it was somewhere around 5 years old. And so 4 days before Christmas, you can imagine a young mother in terms of that. And so as she raised us by herself, and obviously with the help of family over 5 years, she met a guy in Doug, and we had the benefit of having an amazing stepdad till this day. Had amazing 3 sisters that we got introduced to, and in terms of been very blessed around that. But there's a sense of duty that woman showed me my entire life. There's a sense of resolve that she showed me my entire life. There's a sense of strength through adversity that she showed me through her entire life. The one thing that I always knew is that if there was a need, she was in. If it was community, if it was school, if it was anything else, and I think Jolynn would have to correct me, but I think the last tax levy that was passed here, I remember her and Ronnie Savorza just out pounding the streets trying to tell everybody they would disagree, probably not how smart they were at the time, so she didn't always have the most political way about her, but she always made you smile afterwards, so I guess maybe that was political. The point that I'm trying to say is that for my entire life she served, and she showed me the model in terms of which my brother and I would grow up, and other family members that would grow up. And so when I thought, is this something that truly is, what is it about? And so I thought back to myself, the teachers that have been involved in my life. I remember back when I was in kindergarten, I was crying by a water fountain. And during that time, I was bawling because I'd missed my dad. I didn't even know him, but I missed my dad. And Mrs. Beebe, for anybody that you know, Mrs. Beebe comes along, puts her arm around me, tells me that she loves me. She walks me into the principal's office, who Doug Anders, which I would grow to know a long time later, took me in his office and held me there until my mom came and got me. I'm 43 years old, folks, and I can remember that day like it was yesterday. Teachers and administrators oftentimes are going to be at the most critical aspects of our lives and our children's lives, and how they have an influence on you is the reason I'm standing in front of this microphone. Whether it was Mrs. Beebe, Doug Anders, Mrs. Varner, Joe Boffman, who's the greatest teacher that ever lived, Mr. Hamilton, who taught me how to type, and I use that skill every single day. Dan Montgomery, who was a mentor to me as I got into high school, in terms of him being a principal, and then later actually in business when he was a superintendent or assistant superintendent at Newark. Diane Prees, I don't know if anybody knows her, but she took a bumbling kid that was in 2nd, 3rd grade that had a lisp and a stutter and turned him into someone who actually made a living for his family speaking. It's pretty significant. Whether it's coaches and Doug Nethers, Melvin Nethers, Gary Devilvoice, Denny Dimon, Doug Hammond, Jim Holman, Tom Holman, Charlie Osborne, Dirk McFarland, Randy Boffman, Phil Blizzard, John Crickbaum, Kevin Stedman, Rick Junkins, Ty Cromer, Rick Houston, Maharg, Terry Bush, Ralph Felmley, Tim German, Al Stein. These are all men that built into my life. These are all men that took time from their families to build into my life. That's all I want to do. I just want to help. I want to sit on a 5-person board. I want to empower teachers to make a difference in people's lives. I want to sit on a board to hold accountable, to empower, and to make stronger superintendents and treasurers so that they do their job better. That's what the board's supposed to do. Proverbs tells us, 27:17, iron sharpens iron, so friends sharpen one another. Sometimes it makes a loud racket, but it's necessary. And that's the job of a board. It's to hold people accountable. It's to empower people. It's to inspire people. It's to create vision and say, nah, this is not what today is. Here's what tomorrow will bring. That's what a board does. That's why I'm running. Now, I could tell you about Mrs. Beebe not letting me use the restroom and I peed my pants right in front of her, but I'm not going into that story. But folks, that's the only reason I'm here. The only reason I'm here is to sit one of 5 people to help kids. To help kids. If you want to know about my qualifications, I certainly can go over that. When you look at the National School Board Association, they tell you that members are the chief advisors to the superintendent on community attitudes. Regarding that, I have 3 children. Each child is in one of our school buildings. Go from the elementary to the middle school to the high school. I'm involved in just about every sport, coaching. I hear a lot of things in terms of that, some good, some bad, but you got to listen, right? Some people just want to be heard, and that diffuses situations. But in terms of being able to convey attitudes and community values to a superintendent and to a treasurer, I don't know who's better suited. When you look further in terms of their qualifications, in terms of a school board, they talk about 4 main categories, thrusts of leadership. This is vision. I've co-founded many organizations with remarkable people. I didn't do anything on myself. I just got with great people, and they built great organizations. I've been around in terms of creating the vision, in terms of, again, what can be tomorrow. And that is the job of this school board, folks. That is the job of this community in terms of taking engaged parents and then doing something with it. The enemy is not disagreement. The enemy is not disagreement. The enemy is not different ideas. The enemy is apathy. The enemy is apathy. You give me a person with passion, and we can make something happen with that. You understand? The enemy is not disagreement. The enemy is apathy. You give me engaged parents, I'll show you engaged kids. Think about that for a second. Structure. I work with an amazing team. Run a $40 million P&L in terms of payments and applications business. In terms of that, run another $60 million in terms of revenue. So I have a pretty good handle in terms of structure and business environments. I know you disagree, I'm sorry. Dealing with hundreds of clients, dealing with employees, dealing with policies and compliance measures that you have to do for PCI, so I understand in terms of having to follow rules and guidelines, even when it's not your own opinion. Sometimes you just got to suck it up and you got to go forward. When you look at accountability, I've had a 20-year track record with one organization that I come to work with every day to support and provide for my family. During that 20 years, I've only missed numbers 1 time. I don't know if that matters to you, but it sounds kind of braggy, so I apologize. And the last thing that I just want to mention in terms of the thrust of leadership that it talks about in terms of the National School Board is advocacy. What are you going to do for your community? I think one of the challenges that we have now within our community is whether people don't think they're heard or whether they don't think that they have a say, whatever it is, it's communication. It is either lack thereof, it's a misunderstanding, it's something, but it's boiled down into communication. That can be resolved, and that can be resolved very quickly. Again, we're one community. I talked about enemy not being the point of disagreement or the point of ideas. I is the true enemy. I is the true enemy. Can we put self before others? Or I'm sorry, I had that backwards. But can you put others before self? I is the enemy. Apathy is the enemy. Can we advocate for a better tomorrow in terms of how we're going to interact with one another? What are the concepts and community attitudes that are being conveyed? Are they being conveyed when any individual decision is being made? And not just from 4 people, right? Not just from 4 people, but across the community. And I think from an advocacy standpoint, as soon as those decisions are made, or if you're changing curriculum or anything else, then the advocacy needs to be in terms of the individual community saying, hey, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and this is why you should agree, or this is why you should get aboard. Or if you disagree, let's hear that while we're in the process of making decisions. That is true advocacy. You're an evangelist for the school. I've spent 20 years, folks, being an evangelist in terms of products, building them, selling them, positioning them, understanding value. So I think in terms of being qualified and credible to hold this position, I am. I ask for your vote simply so that I can serve. I went to college. I came away with 0 debt. My brother went to college. He came away with 0 debt. Was that by the grace of God? It absolutely was in terms of the skills that he has, but I can tell you it was the men that put me there. It had nothing to do with myself. I've been given a lot by this community. I've been given a lot. I am a very blessed man. I've been given a lot, and I just want to serve. Thank you.
Mrs. Julie Stedman.
I'm not quite as tall. Can you see me? Good evening. Actually, all I can see is microphones. Can you help me? Oh, no. Sounds like my husband.
You don't know how long it was hard for me to not make a joke. I had to make at least one.
Thank you. All right. I'm thankful to be considered to represent Licking Valley on the school board. I never would have thought I'd be standing here doing something like this. I'm thankful to have heard so many really good questions and sincere concerns from parents and voters. So I'm going to start with my platform. You can learn all about me on the piece of paper back there. I won't say it quite as well as Casey did, but I wrote it all down and edited it, so you can read it. My platform, as I run this campaign, has been to empower parents, encourage teachers, and to guard integrity. Empowering parents and grandparents and guardians is essential. They're the experts on their kids, and they ultimately have authority in their families. Licking Valley is a thriving community, like they've said, because we love each other. Neighbors notice each other, and then we go take care of each other. People want to move here, and then they stay for generation after generation after generation. It's partly why our property values are so high right now, right? I find that newcomers, like I was 20 years ago, when they embrace our culture, they feel adopted, like a family. I am a bit concerned that I've heard too many times recently, boy, we've always really trusted our schools and to do the right thing, but it seems like, and there's discomfort going on. I think that families need some reassurance right now, and they need to be certain that the board that they elect will be vigilant and definitely listening, and that their top priority will be the educational well-being of their children. So my second goal would be to encourage teachers. My husband's a teacher. I know a lot about teacher life. School has changed a lot in the past 3 years. They're working in this whole new world with their own fears for their own health and the kids that they love and their families, and frustration because precious time in the classroom is lost and that won't come back. And there have been hurt feelings. I don't need to tell you, you know, teachers and administrators have worked way overtime trying to figure out how to make remote learning actually be effective education, how to apply the health department recommendations, and I think that the school board really needs to encourage teachers by protecting their primary task. They should feel protected and able to go forth and teach our kids and not be concerned about all the rumbling all about. I think we might agree that a teacher's most important job is to teach things like history and math and writing and the scientific process. And our teachers are awesome. At my house, the kids come home and dinner time, I don't get to talk. they talk, and they talk about all the things that they're learning at school, not just like homecoming and the dresses and all the things. They talk about what they're learning about incredible history, and did you know that it said this in our Constitution, and I was a lawyer today, Mom, and it's transformed the way we work, and I'm really thankful for teachers like that. I want them to stay, and I want to attract more teachers like that, so generationally, we keep getting these wonderful dinner time conversations. We want a community, we have a community culture that works really hard and is enthusiastic about learning new skills, new trades, just new information, and critical thinking. We know how to make decisions for our families. So I'm confident we'll continue to get that when we work together. So parents are talking to teachers who are talking honestly with their administrators and with the school board, and we're all talking together, and that helps us sort things out even when it's not fun, even when it hurts or it's hard or we're frustrated. And then our teachers are free, so they can educate our kids. My third point is to guard integrity. Licking Valley has a reputation. We've been talking about it all evening. We take care of each other, and we're fiscally responsible. When we need fiscal help, we ask each other for help, or sometimes it just shows up. According to the Ohio law, the local school board has authority over the superintendent, the treasurer, and also over the curriculum. I think that our board needs to have their eyes wide open to what our curriculum looks like right now. Like, what does it really look like? How is it playing out in the classroom? And how it could look. I'm concerned about the strings which are attached to state funding and federal funding, and how those strings lead to implementing programs that may not fit with the values of our community. I think it's common sense, probably. It's common sense at my house that libraries and classrooms have grade level appropriate materials that reflect our community's basic standards of decency and morality. That's common sense. And not just age-appropriate bestsellers. I like to read those, probably you do too, but we want in our classrooms rich, beautiful documents from our country's history, because we are working to develop prepared, educated, excellent citizens that graduated from Licking Valley High School, right? So I started with my campaign platform: empower parents, encourage teachers, guard integrity, but I am not a politician. My knees are shaking. I am most proud that I'm a wife and I'm a mom. Those are my best paying jobs, absolutely. I have other qualifications, more than 20 years in education, marketing, sales, farming. I never thought I would be a farmer, but I totally am. But that's not why I would stand up here. I would stand up here because I care, and I'm willing to put myself out there only because I care. And my husband said, yeah, okay, we can do that. My daughter Anna put it really well. She turned to me and said, of course you would run for school board, Mom, because we all know that kids become the community that we care about. Like, good, yeah, that's why. If you're not satisfied after tonight, after you hear the questions and the answers and each of us speak, I encourage you please to not give up and to keep asking those questions, because when you vote, you got us for 4 years, right? So keep asking those questions and see what it's like when the person that you asked disagrees with you and you have another hard question to ask. And how do they handle it, and do they hear you? Do you feel like they heard you? They may never agree with you, right? But this is important. Thanks for coming out tonight. Thanks.
Mrs. Jolynn Torbert.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm impressed with the caring community. Of course, we love Licking Valley. Putting a little different twist, I come from you've got all these young people up here ready to set the world on fire, and that's wonderful, wonderful. So you wonder, why am I here? Why did I come out of retirement? Well, first I want to let you know a little more about me. From what I've heard, there's a lot of these young people really don't know me. That's understandable. So I'd like for you to know that I want to share some of the good things that has been accomplished through Licking Valley. I was employed here for 39 years as your treasurer. I really feel like with this experience, I could make a viable candidate. I want to go through some of the things that we have accomplished as a school district and a community, because it takes both. We passed a bond issue and built a new high school. I'm sure several of you here, if it wasn't you, it was your parents, fought hard to get that high school built. We've centralized the district by building a new elementary through the high school facility project. How did we pay for it? We were 78% funded by the state, 22% from our district. But we did not ask our voters for additional dollars for our share. It was required, if you're in the OSFC project, to pass a $500,000 maintenance levy. We didn't do that either. Our portion, our 22% and our $500,000, what we did is we secured it with our permanent income tax, and then, by the way, that's been paid off. Instead, we took out a loan and secured it. Anytime you don't have to go to the voters, we do everything in the world not to have to come to the voters, because we know you're taxed to death. Through this process, we had to negotiate land. That took about a year to secure the land to put our elementary on, but we wanted to centralize it. We felt that was the only fair way. Where would you put a new building? That was a big question. And I'll be honest with you, that was not an easy task to think about closing our 4 beloved elementaries into one, what it looks like a huge elementary. I think we worked it out to the good. We also, within that project, auctioned off our 4 elementary schools. And they seemed to think it was very unusual that we could sell them, but we sold them all and brought about $800,000 that we put back in to our elementary school. A little more square footage, a little more of this, a little more of that. We're the first school in the county that has started the 1-to-1 computers from grades 6 through 12. We currently have approximately 380 computers in our elementary school. We have maintained with all the technology. We've had our building budgets, all yearly budgets to provide professional development for our staff, materials and books as needed. I'm extremely familiar with the teacher negotiation process. That in itself, a board member would need to know how important those negotiations are. I have been an active part of at least 13 of those 3-year agreements. We have had a long-term plan for bus replacements. If you remember, we had, oh my goodness, 20-year-old buses, and our mechanics just worked to try to keep them running. I am very proud of the fact that we have one of the best updated fleets in the state. That's taken a lot of planning. Those buses are $100,000 each. We passed a permanent income tax in 1993 with the help of this community, and have not been on the ballot for additional operating funds for 28 years. I'm very proud of that fact. I have secured a tremendous working relationship with 4 different superintendents, multiple administrators and staff. They always knew that they could come to my office with any questions or concerns. And if I, as a board member, I would use that same comment. I always have an open door. I'm transparent. Any of you that know me know that I will tell you the truth. May not be the most popular answer, but I'm there for the right reasons. We refunded our high school bonds twice over the years, which saved our taxpayers $2 million that they didn't have to pay back. I have managed a $21 million general fund budget each year. I wanted to share my knowledge of the inner workings of the school as an invaluable asset to the district as a board member. By the way, I got looking the other day, in my 39 years, I have sat on assuming we only met 12 meetings a year, which there's years that we had more than that. I've sat on 468 meetings of a school board. And I'm still here. I decided to run for school board to help with the political and health unrest with the district and to maintain the vision that has made us so successful for so long. As a board member, we need to work as a team. Anybody that knows me, I am the staff, the community, students, you have to work as a team. Primary focus on our students and staff, review policies and make sure they're being followed, and represent the best interests for the district. So I just think that, to sum up, that I'm here, I will be here for you, the taxpayers, the students, and give my all. Thank you, and we are LV.
Mrs. Deb Dingus.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Deb Dingus, and I'm running for the Licking Valley School Board. And before I start, I want to say thank you to Brian for hosting this event tonight and for inviting all of the candidates to be a part of this evening. I also want to say a big thank you to our current school board members, the administration, the teachers, volunteers who each day take time out of their lives to make sure that our school district is not only a good school district, but a great community in which to raise our kids. So why do I want to serve on the Licking Valley School Board? Well, I believe, and I feel called, if you want to know about it, that I have the right set of experiences and skills that are needed now more than ever in this particular place and at this particular time. You see, I dedicate my life each day to improving the health and well-being of citizens across not only this Licking Valley community, but across this entire county. I do it 24/7, 365 days a week. I'm not only the executive director for United Way of Licking County, but I'm also an ordained pastor for 30 years. So you can call me 24/7, 365 days. I'll answer my phone and I'll be there. Now, not like the rest of these candidates, I was not born and raised here. But I did come to Licking County about 22 years ago as an associate pastor in Pataskala. And there, while I was serving in a church with oversight also of a full-time Christian preschool, met my husband who was teaching at Granville High School. We got married. That's Dave. And we had really quickly, in 13 months, 3 kids, which was really difficult for us. We struggled with infertility, and I asked my congregation, please pray for us. We want 3 kids. We got 3 in 13 months. So I said they could quit praying. But we left the community. I was called to be a senior pastor down in the Cincinnati area, a large congregation. We worshiped about 400 people. I had full oversight of a full-time preschool with 90 full-time students, 15 to 18 staff. I got cancer. And I started asking questions. Why? God, what's next? And I was telling my congregation, always be open to the new thing God wants you to do. I got a call from a search committee from the United Way of Licking County asking if I would consider coming back to this community because we're going to take United Way in a different direction. It was going to be challenging. We were going to do competitive funding so that we could make sure that dollars were going to go to programs to benefit our community that were being effective and not just giving out blank checks to dollars to organizations that were doing the same thing over and over and over again. I knew that was going to be a challenge, but I answered that call. I came back 10 years ago, and we started searching around, where are we going to move? And we went up to, just happened to be here in the spring for a nap-in up at Flint Ridge. And I ran into, of all people, the Fees. And we started talking. I had my 3 kids with us, where we were going to go. Of course, David taught in Granville. And I'd had my teaching license too, and I'll say a little bit about that in a minute. But we came here because ultimately Licking Valley School District had a reputation of being kind, caring, considerate, a place that welcomed people. We found that to be true. That's where I wanted to raise my kids. We came here, we had 2 third graders and a 2nd grader starting in the middle of the school district, in the middle of the season. And we were welcomed with open arms. My husband teaches in the Licking Valley School District. He's a math teacher, and he's appreciated the camaraderie and the team spirit between administrators, staff, and volunteers. This doesn't happen in every district. We like that team spirit that Jolene's talking about. What qualifications do I bring, though? Licking Valley School Board. Professionally, 1987, I graduated with a teaching certificate, K through 8. I taught school full-time in the south end of Chicago, while, believe it or not, helping to assist coach a junior high boys basketball team. After graduating and teaching, I went to graduate school part-time. I earned a Master's of Divinity because I felt called to go into the ministry. For the past 30 years, since completing my master's, I have given my personal and professional life in service to others. As a chaplain at Children's Hospital and the assistant director at the Ronald McDonald House, I've walked into many of a crisis, and I've been there for people when they have faced the most difficult times of their life. Little did I know that I would have children in the NICU as well for 9 weeks. I was a camp director, assistant pastor, a senior pastor, both times, again, overseeing full-time preschools. In my current role with United Way, I'm responsible for assessing the county's needs in a regular way, and I'm very proud of the way that we go about asking people's opinions of the whole entire community. I raise dollars to benefit our community. I help evaluate and assess effective programs that meet the needs of the community. I convene people together who have different opinions, Republicans, Democrats, young, old, newcomers, old-timers. But we gather together, always with the goal of a consensus. We may not agree on everything, but I do believe there's a way that we can come together and achieve a consensus for the well-being of our communities, and we can do that right here in Licking Valley School District as well. I go above and beyond. I don't just talk about things, I walk the walk. In 2016, I spent 50 days walking 480 miles around this county because I so believed that people needed to hear the voices in this community that weren't being heard. So I believe that people need their voices to be heard. Ultimately, that's what people care about. They want to be heard, not just listened to, but heard. And so I speak up for those voices, the homeless, the poor, those who are marginalized, those who have physical ailments, mental ailments, and all sorts of things. I spent 50 days, 480 miles, sharing that story. I currently sit on the Licking County COVID response team, and I've been a part of this for the past 18 months with leaders in our community. We don't always agree on everything. Our health commissioners, our elected commissioners, our hospital leaders, our teachers, our administrators. I'm a committed volunteer, serving on a dozen or more committees. Currently, I also serve on the Licking County Loss Team. And so 24/7, 365 days a week, I will get a call and say, there's been a suicide, will you show up? And I'm one of the people that goes out to the scenes of suicides to provide support and compassion and empathy. I don't always have the answers. None of us have all of the answers. But I can sit with somebody and let them know that they're not alone. We have been through some difficult times over the last 18 months, that is for sure. It's caused conflict, it's caused hurt feelings, it's caused a lot of unrest, and the traumas that we have experienced will sit in our bodies and sit in our community for years to come. Conflict can be positive if it brings positive change, but conflict can also divide. If we don't start turning away from the things that we individually want, and we don't start asking the questions, what is good for us? We are LV, not you are LV, not I am LV, not they are LV or us as LV. We are LV. And I choose to enter those times of conflict and those times of crisis with a listening, an active listening ear, with empathy, with compassion, and with faith. I don't know how you all begin your days each day, but each day, and especially during difficult days, I wake up in the morning, before my eyelids open, before my feet hit the floor, I repeat Psalm 118, verse 24. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And this daily meditative scripture verse helps me to focus on what I need to be worried about. I can't change what's happened. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. But today I can choose how I'm going to act. I can choose how I'm going to engage with my neighbor. And I choose to figure out how I can leave the world a better place than how I found it. My children were in the NICU. I went into labor at 21 weeks with contractions, and the nurse came in and she hung that up in my hospital room, and she said, if you can just get one more day, if you can get one more day, then eventually your kids' lungs will grow, and then they'll be able to breathe. If you can get to this point, then they can do this and they can do that. And so that plaque, Psalm 118, inspired me to just focus on one day when I couldn't move out of that bed for 7 weeks until I delivered them at 28 weeks, 2 pounds, 5 ounces, 2 pounds, 6 ounces. My kids had some problems, and I looked for a school district that would benefit their special needs. One of them needed a lot of help. And thanks to the loving teachers in this community, she overcame some of those learning disabilities and problems. So I'll close with the fact that I know that our kids are the most important thing in the world. They are for me. They are for you. They are for all of us. I promise you, if I'm elected to the school board, I will put their health and well-being first. Thanks.
Mrs. Carolyn Kohler.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Kohler, and I want to express my appreciation for all of your attendance. A huge thank you to Brian Lewis and Nicole for organizing this informative event. This November, the voters of Licking Valley have a choice. Oh. Sorry. Yep. I just broke it, I think. You won't forget me.
I got that at a yard sale.
Oh, perfect, perfect. My name is Carolyn Kohler, and I just want to express my appreciation for your attendance and a huge thank you to Brian and Nicole for organizing this informative event. This November, the voters of Licking Valley have a choice, and I would like to share my background, my concerns, and my goals. A little bit about me. After graduating from Northridge Local School District, I obtained my bachelor's degree in accounting and am currently a certified public accountant for Blue & Company. Although I am not a Licking Valley native, I was lucky to find Licking Valley and make it my home. My decision to run for school board came after numerous conversations with residents, attending school board meetings, and doing research, and to be quite honest, a lot of prayer. With my professional background and my involvement in our community over the years, I am ready to be a voice for Licking Valley. I have learned many things about our community values, and to my core, I genuinely believe that our community understands there is nothing more important than our children, because they will determine not only our local future, but the future of the world. That is a huge reason why I decided to run for school board. Volunteering has been a big part of my life, and it has always involved the well-being of children. Currently, I'm an avid volunteer in Big Brothers Big Sisters of Licking County, and I also helped co-found a nonprofit called Starfish Assignment, which is aimed at building relationships between police officers and the communities they serve, specifically building those relationships between children in those communities. My focus will always be on what is best for the children. Throughout this campaign, I've been speaking with residents on a wide range of issues. They have included concerns around masks and vaccines, critical race theory being taught in our schools, exposing the children to non-age appropriate curriculum, and I've even heard concerns about wasteful spending. All of these issues are important to me because we are all taxpayers. As your school board member, I can promise 3 things. 1, I want to represent the voice of this district clearly and professionally. I want to hear your concerns, good or bad. I want to have the meaningful conversations with parents, teachers, principals, and the superintendent. I want to know what everyone is thinking, and then I want to work hard to formulate a plan to improve upon those things. Number 2, I want to advocate for families' rights and create transparency so families can utilize those rights. I believe that parents genuinely know what is best for their children, as you know your children better than I ever will. I want there to be effective oversight of what is being taught to our children and complete transparency to parents. I want there to be transparency for all parents to play a role in their children's education and school life, as family rights are the most important aspect of raising our children. Number 3, I'm an accountant. I know numbers and I want to protect your tax dollars. While Licking Valley has been financially responsible, it never hurts to have fresh eyes and oversight when it comes to your tax dollars. As the board changes hands in this next election, I want to be the set of independent eyes. I love a balanced budget, conservative spending, and when we do spend, making sure it is spent to better the districts and to empower and position our children to lead more successful lives. My pledge is to work with our administration to make sure we are spending your money wisely. I truly believe that we are at a juncture at a local, state, and federal level. Our responsibility as voting citizens is to start electing leaders who have a plan to represent the values of the communities they serve, specifically Licking Valley. I'm committed to being your voice for Licking Valley, protecting your tax dollars, and advocating for you and your families. Again, I would like to thank you for taking your time to come out of your busy schedule to attend this informative event. I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right, now here's how we're going to do this. We're going to have people come up to this microphone over here, Lincoln's putting a bomb on it right now if you talk too long. It'll electrocute you if you... Some of these people up here can't tell time very well, so what we're gonna do... I told you I can't go this long without making jokes. I'm gonna pop. So me being a football coach, when you're asked, I'd like you to do a somersault over the table and address the mic. So as you have questions, the rules for our questions, I don't care what you ask, but I do care the spirit that you ask it in. So please be respectful. That's why we're here. I'm just meeting some of these candidates myself. Like I said, I've lived here my whole life. But the whole idea is to find out who we're voting for. So I know you guys got a lot of questions. Try to keep it as concise. And with you all, if you can get straight to the point with your answers, we would like to get through. We got lots of questions. I assume I didn't bring the questions. That's your all's job. So as soon as Lincoln's ready, if you have a question, please address the mic. We drew a little X there. You got to stand close so the folks that are watching at home can hear this too. And ask your question, concise, to the point, and respectfully. Also the same with the answers. Yeah, whoever's got a question, come on. Please.
I'm asking this question on behalf of Melanie McNeil, who is a substitute teacher at Licking Valley and who has an injury tonight and can't be here. She says, our district is facing a severe lack of sub-teachers and teachers' aides, as well as various aides. Our district does not hire full-time due to having to offer full benefits. There are subs and aides ready to work full-time but are not allowed. Now we are facing a severe worker shortage and leaving classrooms and individual children without personal aides. Her question is, are you open to changing our current policy in order to bring new workers into our district and better serve our students? And what is your position to entice subs and aides into our districts in light of the severe worker shortage?
Who's your question addressed to?
Jolynn, I don't know. I'm just like.
We could pass the mic. Is that possible? No?
Yeah, he's got it first, so the people at home.
I'll go first. How about that?
While she's coming, that's what I was supposed to say. You ask your question, then go sit down. They'll answer it in a timely fashion, and then we'll move right along. So I hope we can get through a lot of these.
Sure. I've worked as a sub at Licking Valley since early last spring, when people needed subs because everything was going crazy. And my first response to that is we absolutely need great subs, and I know that a full-time sub position is a great thing because they would work every single day, but it's a money question, and I don't know how the money works out for that. I do know that a full-time sub is a great way to test out a new teacher because you can interview a person, but until you see how they work with their kids and how they work with the administrators and how they work with the other teachers, you don't know. So that's my fast answer.
You also want to hear that from Jolynn?
Anybody else want to answer?
Same question.
Oh.
If I understood your question right, you really were leaning towards the aides in our buildings, is that correct?
I think subs are only allowed to work 4 days a week also.
It's a 28-hour rule, and that's Obamacare has caused us to where we can't offer full-time employment without offering health care. We all know the cost of health care. We are able to have, I would say, I'm just picking a number, I'd say 30, 40 aides in our district. If we had to pay health care, we'd probably end up having 10 or 15. That's just the way it was. That's just a finance thing. We would love to be able to offer full-time employment to the aides. They've been so good So, and it's not just the aides, it's the custodians, it's the cooks. It's just the way it is. The law, the rules, has taken that out of our hands.
I'm very short too.
Well,
Okay, this is just a general question for anyone. This was just passed along to me. Is it yes or no answer? Would you support board policy or any of our schools allowing children to choose which bathroom they use based on the gender they choose, not based on their sexual or their biological sex?
If it's yes or no, we can just go right, you can say it from your seat.
No, I would not support them to choose what restroom they use.
Yes, I would support them in how they choose to self-identify.
no, I would not support it.
No.
Personally, no, but I think the Supreme Court has commented on what is lawful and what is not.
I say no, but higher authorities may overrule what a school board decides.
So I guess as far as the forum goes, we can, yes or no question, we can go down the line like that. If you have a specific, you have to call out who you would like to have answer. Yes.
I actually have two questions. I have one for Deb Dingus first. I know that you said you work for United Way. Well, also so does our current superintendent. Do you feel as though that you have any bias or any influence to this decision to run, or do you feel that it could be a conflict of interest as well?
No, I don't feel it's a bias or a conflict of interest. Dave and I have a very respectful relationship. We've worked on committees for several years. I have no problem telling him when I disagree with him, and he has no problem telling me when he disagrees with me. And so I don't see it as being a conflict.
Actually, this other question is for Jolynn. So I know that you did decide that you were going to run after being appointed for that seat. The seat that you're currently in now, that you were appointed, you would be running in 2023. So my question is, one, when you do decide, if you do happen to get voted in and you do have to give your seat up, would you do it after a certain date or before, depending on who's actually on the board? And then the other question is, was there any ulterior motive or also another inspiration as to why you chose to do it this way, since this is based on voters instead of being appointed?
Well, I have been accused of ulterior motive, but no, I don't. If I had ulterior motive and knew what I was going to do, would you not see the signs out? My signs were just delivered today, by the way. So this kind of just came up that I filed my petition in August to run for a 4-year term. Once Sean Shoemaker resigned with the intent of moving out of the district, I submitted my letter of interest to the board for the remaining 2-year terms, as did 3 of our other candidates. I was honored to have been chosen for that position. Once I thought that was the way it was, I'm not a politician here. I didn't know all these rules. I've just kind of found out along the way. Once the absentee ballots came out and were available, it became confusion because I was on the ballot. Questions were asked, so we checked with the Board of Elections. I personally went down there myself to ask about my eligibility, only to find out I was still eligible to run for the 4-year term. I thought about it, and I'm thinking, well, why not? That was my original intent. And if I'm elected to the 4-year term, I will resign my position. Now, your question was, what will I do? I will resign my position. When? I don't know. I don't even know what the rules are. So I guess I need to get through this election, and then I'll figure it out. I mean, I will certainly talk to the current board about what direction I need to go, but I guess I just need to get there first. Did I answer your question? Where'd she go? Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Will that, I'm confused about all that too. Will that be an appointed spot then? Your current spot that you're on now will be appointed by whom?
I don't know for sure. I don't know what that.
It will be by the school board.
It will be by the school board. It will be.
We don't know the new one or the old one?
No, I do not know.
It depends on when you resign.
It depends on when she resigns. Correct. The date of when she resigns. That was.
Is that what the Board of Elections said? I mean, I don't know.
That's what it says in the bylaws.
That's what's saying in the bylaws. Okay. I don't know, Brian. I will talk to the current board. I think I give them the respect that they have. They've earned that. And if I do, once I win the timelines, if I resign, then the current board would be the one to go through that same process that we went through. You know, they would have 30 days.
Right?
What?
If you don't, then we still get you, right?
Yeah. Yes. You've got me for 2 years. Either one. Did that answer your question, Brian? It's confusing.
I have to
I'm
talk
telling
to the
you.
moderator. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions.
Yes, you're allowed. It is confusing. I mean, I've learned this along the way. It's like almost can't believe some of these laws and rules. But I've also worked with the school district, and we have to follow a lot of guidelines from the state. I think Dave mentioned that at one of our last board meeting or two, that we're 55-60% funded from the state and federal government. We pretty much got to follow their rules. We aren't in a position in this school district to say, you take your money and run. We would love to sometime. Well, we can only hope.
Thank you guys for coming. My question was, is that going?
No, you're fine.
Oh, it's just me. I'm used to that. So I was asking about gender identification also, and she asked that question. And Mrs. Dingus, since you were the only one that said no, I'd like to direct this question towards you. How do you, what's that look like to you if a biological male can feel as a female and participate in sports? What's that situation look like to you?
I think we have to adhere to the laws of inclusivity as mandated also right currently by the state of Ohio. And so we have to do our best to provide for reasonable accommodations for a child who self-identifies as a different gender. And we can do that by having a separate bathroom, which we do at Licking Valley for those students who identify in that particular way. I also support a student trying out for a sports team if they want to try out for a sports team. I played on the boys' Little League baseball team when I was a little girl. And I helped also assistant coach a boys' basketball team in the south end of Chicago. So I think we need to be considerate of, again, an individual's self-expression.
This one's also for you.
Okay.
You said one of your main goals was putting our kids' health first.
Yes.
What's that look like to you, especially during the pandemic?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe hit on whether that's in class or remote learning.
Yeah, so first of all, I'll tell you I'm not an expert around COVID-19. I will tell you that as a chaplain at Children's Hospital, one of the areas that I was assigned to was infectious diseases. And I've seen children die of infectious diseases, not COVID, but other infectious diseases. I've also lived in Africa, and I can see how communicable diseases and diseases that don't have disease vaccines can kill children. Personally seen that myself. This pandemic, we've seen a variety of ways trying to tackle this. It's a new disease for us. It is a communicable disease, and we are mandated by the CDC on how we're supposed to handle communicable diseases. However, we do have some leeway in our communities and how we're currently doing that. And have we done a perfect job? I don't think we've done a perfect job. I don't think any community's done a perfect job. Can we improve on how we're doing that to keep people safe and being respectful of the community? I think, yes, we have room to improve there. But when I talk about the health and well-being of our children, I'm not just talking about COVID. I'm talking about all of the wraparound services, too, that our children and our families need just to make it in our communities. I'm talking about the mental health of our children. Children that are stressed out, children that are feeling suicidal. I'm talking about families that are struggling. I spent all last year thinking about ways. We got extra dollars through the CARES grant to get $300,000 worth of hygiene products out to families who are struggling, who couldn't barely afford to pay for their food bills, let alone hygiene products. And so I'm concerned about all of those things. I know that the state education budget will have dollars for wraparound services to support our school districts. And I think probably, maybe other than Dwayne, I know pretty well all of those wraparound services that are available in this county that we're going to have to consider contracting with to support the health and well-being of our kids. So mental health programs, special needs programs. I know somebody in here who had a child who benefited from a visual program that we sponsored. So I'm concerned about all of the facets, physical, mental, and spiritual. If there was a way, too, that we could have an hour of spiritual education for every student, too, I'd be for that as well. I lived in Sugar Grove, Ohio. I was sharing this with somebody. And when I went there as a pastor, there's only 3 churches there in the town, Methodist, Lutheran, and Catholic. And all of the students were let out of school for an hour early, and they could then go to their own religious instruction for an hour. So that's a part of health and well-being as well. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Hi, this question is for all of you. As an English teacher myself, I think that every teacher I know believes that parents have the right to decide what their child reads. But my question is, when it comes to the library, who do you think, as a school board member, who is responsible for making the decisions of what books are in the library, and what kind of certifications or qualifications or training should that person or people have?
If we get it as concise as we could on that,
Who is she asking?
Yeah, I don't know what the question is.
we're gonna try to keep, if you had a blanket question, try to keep it to a yes or no if we can, but she was addressing all of you.
Yeah, I didn't, what's the specific question? I
I
apologize.
just want to know, who do you think is finally responsible for what books are in the library, and what qualifications or certifications should that person or people have? I don't think it can become a yes or no question ultimately. No, a lot of things can't be.
Ultimately, I feel it's going to be the school board. I know the school is putting together a list of books that are available for all students.
Can you hear?
We're just trying to get this as quick as
Right.
we can through the.
My answer is ultimately it's going to probably be the school board that decides that. I know they're currently working on compiling the list of books and materials that are available to all students, and once that is made available, it's going to be up for review. And not that we're going to be looking for books that be taken away, but as we find books that may be questionable, and if there's parents' concerns, that's when we get looked at, and it'll be on a case-by-case basis.
Just to answer this correctly, because we had this happen this year, something that was brought as my daughter entered her freshman year, in terms of something that I spoke at a board meeting in terms of having not necessarily censorship, but sensibility. And I took that from a friend, and I wasn't smart enough to make up that phrase. But it was in the sense of, I understand my daughter at 14 years old, the context in which she can take information, and having her exposed without her mother and I having context and having conversations to very strong sexual violence is not a great thing to me. And so what my request was is that, okay, if we're not going to censor books, then let's be sensible about this and bring the parent into the discussion. And so now the parent has the context in which this material is being conveyed, and so appropriate conversations can be had. And thus, in credit to the board and credit to Wes Weaver and the rest of the teachers, you now have the curriculum hub online that is available for all parents. Now, this can be made much better, because one of the areas, the library is there, but if you went in there and how many books are in the library to be able to find that. Also within the suggested reading, there's 300 pages. There's a 300-page PDF. I can't tell what my daughter's class is in terms of those reading books. So it's important that it's out there, but it's not refined enough to truly help the parents yet within those selected readings. But I think at the end of the day, the school board is responsible for everything that happens at the school.
I actually have a piece of paper that I brought with me where it's Ohio Revised Code 3313.21, and it gives authority over all instructional materials and curriculum to the school board. But then 3313.212 says parents shall review them. So I know that a librarian is the expert who knows what the books are and why they're there, what list they were on, and that's why we picked it, and what the content is, especially in terms of like age appropriateness. But the librarian is a piece and that's the expert, just like the third grade teacher is the expert on the third grade reading guarantee. But when you partner that with a parent review team, there's actually, in the revised code, it says the school board should create a team, that's not the right word, a group of parents that will do that review. And when it all works together, then I think parents aren't freaking out anymore. And some parents aren't going to pay any attention, and that's why there's a team that looks at it with the school board and advises them. There, that's all.
When I became a board member recently, I've only been on for 2 meetings, I had heard about the concern about the books. My understanding, and you pointed out, Casey, that the school board, and the administration did hear the concerns, worked on those concerns, and I know they put a lot of time into developing the list, although we have lots and lots of books in our district. And I think the process is, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the teachers submit like the English teachers or the teachers, what some of the books that they would like to see in the library for the students to read. I think the librarian oversees that. I think the administration approves it. And ultimately, like you said, the school board has that right. But based on listening to people, we have got started with a process of making sure we agree. And listen, how many times have we heard something? It doesn't matter what it is. And you think, oh my goodness, that's terrible. But as you go through the process and hear, sometimes there's both sides to a story, so you might be able to bring it in and justify, a book, whether it's a book or whatever it is. So, you got to be open-minded and ask good questions.
So I certainly appreciate the expertise that librarians and teachers, as it relates to their curriculum, have around suggesting books or other reading materials or other aids that are helpful in teaching the concepts that they want to teach in their classrooms or as a part of a team unit. I also know that not every parent is going to be happy with what their kids encounter. And I think there should be a process. It's my understanding that there was some concern about a book or a few books recently, and that there was a group of people, I think even a school board member, and some teachers and folks that came together to talk about some of those concerns, and that did result in the lists of books being made available to folks. At any time, a parent has also the opportunity, once they discover a book or something that's not in alignment with those things that they want their children to be exposed to, they can make a request for an alternative book, an alternative lesson plan, an alternative way to approach this component of the curriculum. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not for 100% everybody, but I think there's a way that you can have an ongoing group of teachers and parents and experts, if it's around a particular subject, come together and make some recommendations on a case-by-case situation when there are concerns. And I think that's a valid way of looking at the materials that are available.
There's really nothing else I can say. No, I would say librarians and teachers, obviously giving suggestions. I think they know the books and what's in the books better, probably than most, as well as the administration would obviously approve, but ultimately it would be up to the school board. Thank you.
This question really is addressed to all of you, and I appreciate that it's rather theoretical at this point, but believe me, it's coming. You'll see what I mean. I'm sure that all of you are aware that very recently the National Association of School Boards asked the Department of Justice to help them in dealing with frustrated parents. As a result of that,
They've already come from.
Okay, as a result of that, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, sent a letter to the FBI asking the FBI to create a special training and guidance to help school board members identify the types of behavior of parents and school board participants that they might find to be of concern. And the concern has to do with threats, the question of threats. It even goes so far as to question whether there might be a domestic terrorist questioning the school board. So my question to you folks, knowing that we are way far from DC and whatever lunacy might be there, I'd like to know what your view is of that sort of situation coming to Licking Valley.
As concisely as we can put that, yes. That's a big question, so.
I can't do it concisely.
As concisely as possible.
The biggest way to handle that on a community basis is to be proactive, and making sure the discussions are held beforehand, making sure that conflicts are either handled or resolved before they can become bigger. It's proactive to make sure there's effective communication between parents, students, teachers, boards, so that way it's not us trying to pick out individuals.
I will never think that you're a domestic terrorist if you're there to voice your concerns. That's really all I have to say.
Jolynn said, what did she say? So I'll say it again. I also will never think you're a domestic terrorist if you are coming to voice your concerns. I trust you.
I kind of like that myself.
I really don't have any concerns about that.
I actually have great concerns about it. It's the government silencing the local voice. And I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible even to suggest it in terms of the movements that are going on across the country in terms of, again, passionate parents becoming involved within the school district. I have large problems with it. I have large problems with me speaking in a board meeting and you know, Kim's sitting right there. I don't think I was, you know, sometimes I was passionate in terms of talking about a book or this or that. But to insinuate that an opinion in front of a microphone can be seen as threatening when you're not making a threat, when you're just voicing your God-given right in this country, if people don't see that as problematic, that's an issue.
Go ahead and readjust the mic for you.
Hold on.
I was not going to ask a question, but I did want to dig in a little bit farther. So my question is for Ms. Dingus. I didn't realize that Dave sat on the United Way board, and you're looking to sit on a board that oversees him, and how that wouldn't be a conflict of interest. And that we've heard that the three main roles are to set curriculum, oversee the treasurer, oversee the superintendent. Why would I vote for somebody that has to recuse herself from a third of that responsibility because of any kind of perceived conflict there? And I don't know, maybe he's about up on his United Way term. I don't want to speak for that if it's out of the realm, but just hearing that, and I appreciate your response, but I do think that is kind of a concern.
Thank you. I can appreciate that. And certainly something that we've thought about. Like I said, I've known Dave for quite a while. He's known me. He sits on the board, but I can tell you he's one of 18 voices, and he would certainly recuse himself if it was something related to me, if he saw that it was a conflict of interest, especially since we serve on some similar committees across the county together as well and work in the same areas. So we did not feel that was going to be a conflict of interest. Now, when it comes down to voting on Dave's financial situation, I think he's fully aware that I can speak to Dave's effectiveness, and I have no problem offering constructive criticism to Dave and being a voice as a member of a 5-person team evaluating our superintendent, and I'll do that non-partially. Does that answer? Thank you.
This is a yes or no for all of you. Would you support critical race theory being taught at any level in our schools? And if you're going to speak at the desk, just be loud. It's like we can't hear you when speaking there. So, yes or no? Thank you.
No.
No.
Critical race theory is not taught at our schools. It's not a subject that's taught at the elementary, junior high, or high school level.
The answer though.
Yes or no? Would I support a teacher? No, no. It's not something that happens in school.
Absolutely not.
No, definitely no. I would like to say more than that, though.
Go ahead.
I'll be so concise. People are worried about that because they hear things. They hear about, oh, my daughter was da-da-da-da-da, and then they just talk to their neighbor, and why don't they come and tell the school board? Because we are hearing things from our neighbors about this. Things are happening in our classrooms, and it's maybe just one teacher's opinion, and okay, but we should be talking about this to the people who make the decisions and hold accountable. Our teachers are awesome. I'm an awesome mom, and I screw up every day. We should be talking to the people who are accountable for those things. So that was my elaboration. No critical race theory. It's racist.
No.
Okay, this is a yes or no question. Would you vote for a district policy which allows students to choose whether they use a male or female name or pronoun as a statement of their new gender, without the knowledge or consent of their parent.
Go from this end first, or you go first, Drake. They went this way last time.
That one's a little bit harder because even if we decide to have shortened name, if our students decide to have a shortened name in their classroom, instead Max instead of Maxwell, they choose to go by that. To say maybe the student or the parents could be aware of that's the name that's being used in the classroom, but the students can be able to choose how they want to be addressed in the classroom.
I'm not sure what the law says in terms of what you can and can't do from a policy standpoint, but I can tell you personally, that's confusing to me.
I think as kids become aware of their own identity, they can certainly choose how they want to informally be known. I've known students who've decided to be called by a different name, and their friends, their peers will choose to call them by that self-identified name. Legally, publicly, a student is still within the jurisdiction until they're 18 years old underneath their parents. And for legal records, the parents and the students will use those legal names that are given to them until they're 18 years of age. When they're 18 years of age, they can, at that point, choose to legally change their name. So informally, it happens. It happens on the playground. It happens in their clubs, things like that. Legally, we can't change their name, or we can't choose to call them by something different for legal matters. We'll still put their official name on their documents.
As a parent, I would be very concerned if I found out that my child named Isaac decided to be called Judy. That's not acceptable to me. I was in a subbing situation last week where a young child was called by 2 different names because they were trying to learn both of their names, and that was their parents' decision, and that's fine. I can't remember either of them anymore, but it's a parent decision, and it just goes back to the whole, we need to communicate with each other. Because if a parent decides that, well, we don't really have any authority over that. The parents got the authority.
I agree with Deb. You do have to go by their legal name on documents. How far it goes on what kids want to be called, I think that if it was serious enough that a teacher was concerned about it, they would contact the parent. Otherwise, I'm okay with that, but we do have to go by their legal name.
Absolutely not, without parent consent.
Good. First of all, I think it's awesome that we're able to come here and do this. Like, thank a veteran, thank a soldier who has allowed this to be possible with our democracy. But I hear how many boards, how busy, how many things you guys are involved with. I want you guys, I guess this is more of a comment than a question, but I really hope you guys can look in the mirror and devote the time that's going to be needed with what we're calling you to do, to get my vote. I hope that you're not so busy or so stretched thin that my 4 kids at home, that when there's issues that come up, that we're not so busy that we can't address that needs to be addressed. Because I think, with all the credentials that you guys bring, all the accomplishments I think are great. This is I think that's awesome what you guys have done. I think it's great. but my high priority is what my kids are getting and what's going on with our schools. Because at times I feel that there's parents like us, parents that we've served with, coaches that we serve with, that feel like trust has been violated at times, that it's hard to go to sleep at night when the trust of the schools aren't there at times. Do I think we live in the best district ever? Yes, I do. But what I will say is, just because it's polished, just because things are great, doesn't mean things can't get better, and that we can't focus time on that. So, I would like to ask, what is something have you guys, all of you down the line, been to the last 5 board meetings and know what's going on? What is missing from the board that you guys can bring to the table?
Laura, you want to start your end?
Me?
Yeah, Carolyn, you want to start?
The first question was, have I been to the last 5 board meetings, I believe? And the answer to that is yes. As for something that I can bring to the board, well, first of all, I'm a CPA, and like I said earlier, I believe in protecting tax dollars. So I believe that I can be a set of independent eyes and see and work with the superintendent on specifically a goal-based budget. I believe in that. So kind of what are the goals we want to achieve and the budget from that point. I don't believe that is exactly how they set their budget now. I think that they do a phenomenal job. They're very fiscally responsible, but I think it definitely doesn't hurt to have a set of independent eyes.
I had to count. I'm not sure. I've for sure been to the last 4. I don't know if the 5th one before that I was at for sure. So what I would like to think about for our board and bringing something new to our district is something that I saw was effective and is effective in the Newark City schools. After we passed our needs assessment just prior to our most recent one, we identified the graduation rate as being really important for Newark City schools. They weren't doing as good a job as they could. So out of that identified need, a multidisciplinary team, a committee was made. It was called the Graduation Rate Committee Team. And it's a way of getting together regularly intervention counselors, teachers, local clergy, mental health people, physical health people, anybody that could come to the table and look at helping an individual student, kids that are at risk, wrap around their situation and figuring out together how we can best improve and to help their success in graduating. Since that team came together in Newark City schools, the graduation rate has improved tremendously. I think that we can do the same thing here in our community. We've got a lot of kids. This is a great district, but we do have some kids that have some obstacles to being successful, and perhaps we can put together a multidisciplinary approach that meets regularly. Use community members, use local clergy, use law enforcement, use health professionals to wrap around and really help those kids who are struggling, because some of them are just fallen behind, especially during the pandemic. And so I'd like to have regular reports on what we're doing to help kids overcome the obstacles to success.
Yes, I have been in attendance in the last 5 board meetings. And I'll be honest with you, I think I really believe in the communication process. So as issues come up, I have, as a treasurer, I created a finance task force. Dwayne, I think you was part of that. I think we established that in 2005. Met twice a year for open communication with the community. Community, board members, teachers, administration. We had some very good dialogue. We just didn't talk about finance. We talked about what we were doing in our schools. I really enjoy, the administration came and expressed at the last board meeting what they were doing in their curriculum. This is a real eye-opener for me to listen to everything that goes on. It'd be wonderful to have some teachers to come and share with some of the wonderful things that they are doing. And I think that will help us as a board to know what's going on, because we can't be everywhere. So I would encourage that.
I think I missed one in the last 5 months. I started going in January after I watched the Zoom recording when there was a big book incident, and I thought, oh, I don't like this. I'm going to the next board meeting. Something I think is missing with our school board is the no votes. I don't understand. I'm all for consensus and unity, but how can there never be a no vote? Why are they always all yes? That seems odd to me. Also, I don't understand why there isn't discussion that we all get to hear. I think that there's there's Robert's Rules of Order, and that there's preparation that goes on before the meeting, but we know they can't all meet together, so they can meet in like 2s or 3s, but how come the community doesn't hear any of that discussion? Why aren't there hard questions being asked right there in the board meeting? And maybe it's because everything is peaceful and great and it all made sense, but as a community member, as a mama who comes, I think, oh, wait. In fact, I interrupt fairly often, which is not Robert Rules of Order. Sorry. I'll learn those. I just think there should be hard questions. Like the curriculum report was really cool, and I had all these questions, and I thought, are you not going to ask any questions? Do I have to raise my hand again? So that's what I think is missing. And maybe I'm missing something and I'll learn about it when I'm on the board, but that's what I think.
Can you explain what you meant by there's no vote?
If you look back over the minutes on the agenda is released hopefully Friday before the Monday night board meeting, and then you get the minutes and you can look at those, and then they are not approved until the following meeting, so it takes a month for you to get to see them for the public if you're not at the meetings. And it says who voted for what, and I haven't ever seen a no vote. There have all been yeses, which is awesome, I guess. Superintendent recommends these 5 items, treasurer recommends these 5 items, yes. That's all.
Michael, they asked me just to come to every other meeting. They couldn't take me every one. No, I'm just joking. No, I went to a soccer game, the last one, instead of the board meeting, so I haven't been to 5 in a row. Maybe a little bit off Julie's, not to try to steal her thunder there, but I am a really good question asker. It's one thing that is core to my discipline in terms of my profession, in terms of building product, and in terms of trying to understand what problems are, how do you create value around what those problems are, and create solutioning around how you meet that. And so one of the things that you learn over 20 years of being involved in that is how do you get at the core through questions. And the power of questions is just a remarkable thing in terms of, number one, trying to develop solutions. So I think probably primary, it would be that in terms of being able to ask questions and not being concerned in terms of ruffling feathers or anything like that, but do so in a very polite way. But I also think that perspective around parental rights, parental choice, and community engagement is something that I really would be, I think, very well suited in terms of representing our community.
Start with, yes, I've been to the last 5 board meetings. Can I also go on that? It does seem very repetitive when you get the same yes answers, so maybe a good thing would be to make sure we're breaking out the treasurer recommendations and the superintendent recommendations to better understand what those actually are, instead of just being another bullet point that the school board members know what they are, but maybe the community isn't used to it, so it stands out a little bit more. You also asked about making sure we have time to do this as a school board member. All of us volunteer because we love doing it, because we love being a part of the kids, the adults, and that's why we're up here, because we have been around the kids and adults so much talking about the issues. I won't say for all, but this role would take the top tier of time and time management, because this is now a legal responsibility. We're elected by the community, whereas those were our volunteer roles. We decided to put our time into that, but now we are legally responsible to you to make sure we're fulfilling your needs.
Good evening all. Hope you all can hear me. I didn't know whether to come up here or not, but I decided it had to be a few issues brought forward. So that's why I'm here. I think most of you know me, born in Licking Valley, graduated from Licking Valley. My son and daughter graduated from Licking Valley. My grandkids go to Licking Valley. My dad is an honorary graduate of Licking Valley, who's 94 years old. A little over a year ago, I was approached, and this is a book issue. It's tearing me apart. That's why I decided to come up here. I was approached and handed some copies of a book that's in our library and other areas in our school multiple times. I thought to myself, I'm near 70 years old and I've never seen nothing like this. I hesitated to come up because of the video, because I know how hate and stuff works in communities. I've seen it before in my position as commissioner. It's not fun, but it's politics. And if I don't do this, then I'm not the man that I consider myself to be. When I first got these pictures, I called Dave Howe. I know all you folks real well. I know Dave. I built Dave's house. And I said, Dave, you know the book I'm talking about. Why is it in our high school? And the conversation went that education is different today than it was when you went to school, basically. See, when I went to school, if you chewed gum, they would take a roller and smack your hand. When I went to school, if you played paper football as a freshman, you'd get 2 whacks. I know, I went through it. And I know today's a different world. And I'm not judging. We have a great school system. And I'm not here to destroy it or tear it up. I just hope we can make it better. I didn't get the answer I wanted from Dave, so I went to our county prosecutor. I handed the pictures to and the verbiage to him. And most of you know our prosecutor. He worked with our football coach and stuff when we was being, harassed by Freedom from Religion group. Very conservative Christian man. And he says, Dwayne, I'll tell you this. It's encroaching in all of our schools. Be careful what you do with it. It'll turn around and bite you back. That's one reason I hesitated to come up here. But he did give me directions to an organization in Texas who was also affiliated in Ohio, and I kept my research going. I then met with our state legislatures because it appeared maybe they could do something. I had one state legislature who looked at me, who was not from the Valley, and said, Mr. Flowers, isn't this the school that the football team prays before games? I said, yes, it is. He goes, wow. They all told me the problem is with the school board. The school board is responsible for the curriculum and the reading list and the policy. We know there's some strings that dangle with money. This has nothing to do with strings dangling with money. This is all about teacher's preference, what she believes is right for our children and my grandchildren. I'm going to give you each 4 pages of this one book that's available for 14-year-olds. I hesitate to do it because I wouldn't give it to my dad, it's 94. But I'm going to walk up and give it to you, and I'm going to ask you maybe 2, 3, 4 questions, and all I want is a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Or don't do nothing. take a few minutes and look through the pages. I'm very concerned. And I'm just a carpenter for 45 years. I became a county commissioner, so I don't know the rules and laws and where education's headed. But what I see that I just passed out to you really bothers me. I do not want my grandkids to get a hold of this. I really don't. But it's available, it's on teachers' list, and I don't understand why. Maybe it's me, maybe it's not. But my first question to each of you is, would one of you like to stand up and read one page of that to this group? Up or down? I see all down. Thank you. That really helped me. Would any of you sit down with your 14-year-old son or daughter or grandchild and read this book as a family reading session? Up or down?
I don't know, Dwayne. It depends.
Okay,
I don't know what book this is from.
It's called Milk and Honey.
Okay.
It's a book of poetry.
Yeah, I don't like the pictures.
All right. I'm losing my train of thought here, but I had about 6 or 7 questions. And I guess my last question would be, I know we're working there, we're getting there, to have parents be made aware of what's up there. I'm asking you now, if you are elected to our school board, please create a citizen advisory group. I can get 20 grandparents to go up there and go through that library and rate these books, and not allow our children to get these books by teachers who think it's a good idea to have no clue what my grandchildren need. And with that, thank you all for being here. I know most of you, and I really appreciate what you do. Thank you.
So the referencing that I was making earlier was on this book earlier, and I think it's important to point out that as this came about, there were multiple people that engaged the school board in terms of that, or this material. And again, it's not necessarily in the case of censorship, but sensibility. And so the questions that you asked are very mindful in terms of, would you engage your child in this? And so if this is going to be present, my position is that I as a parent, my parental right is that I can be the decisioner in terms of what my child is exposed to. That is my right. That's a parental right. And the school district, school board, teachers, or anybody else should not impose upon that right.
I just wanted to add, because I referenced that book, that's what I meant when I first decided I'd like to come to a school board meeting, and it's because I saw the teachers and I saw the final stage where the school board reacted to the teacher working her way up the ladder to school board help. And so I was so disheartened to see a teacher who felt compelled to offer mental health services through an English curriculum. Because, as Deb said, we have so many resources in our community. We have people who know how to do mental health, and it doesn't need to be teachers. Their job is to teach how to write and to think. And if a child is going to be exposed to that for their benefit, to help them through a situation, if you want to see it, you can, but I don't recommend it because you won't forget. I haven't forgotten, and it's already November again, and I thought about it yesterday. Pictures don't go out of your brain. I just wanted to say that we have plenty of mental health services, and just like if somebody comes to school hungry, we help them find food through the food providers. We're the providers of the education, not all of the other things. Those are secondary for our job. Somebody else gets to do that job really well. That's all.
Hello. Hey there. Does that work? Okay. Super nervous about asking this question. It makes me uncomfortable to even have to go there, but in our culture today, we have to ask these questions. I know this specific question is on other people's mind, whether they speak it or not. This question is concerned about future generations. As the gentleman who spoke before me talked about the generation after generation living in this community, I have a good feeling that with my family's history, my grandkids are going to go to Licking Valley, and my great-grandkids. So with that being said, here's the question. The natural structure of the family unit designed to procreate is being threatened by the Department of Education and Culture in itself. A push for public schools to provide material as early as kindergarten, introducing alternative family units, is happening to neighboring schools. What is your position on this issue, and how would you pursue your position at the school board level if challenged? Thank you.
To address that, ultimately, it's the parents' responsibility to decide what's right and wrong and teach their kids what's right and wrong. And as we seeing that, we need to make sure that those concerns are flowed all the way up to our state level legislatures, state level school board, because those are where the flow downs are going to come from, and we need to make sure that they're made aware of the concerns.
I really hate to sound like a broken record, but it's parent choice, parents' rights, parents' choice, parents' rights.
I think the reason it's hard to stand up and ask that question is because we have people in our families and in our community, or maybe just outside of this community that we love, who are making decisions that are different from the ones I'm making at my house. And so we stumble over that. But at Licking Valley Primary last year, I haven't heard it, I haven't been there for early morning announcements. They sing a kindness song. We're kind already. We can't make somebody be kind, but we already are. But we can let parents teach what's parents' role. That's what they get to do. And we can also acknowledge that everybody doesn't do stuff the way our house does it. I think it's really interesting that in Licking Valley's board policies right now, there are rules about how Licking Valley is allowed to use grant money, because if you look at curriculum, that might be different from how a grant is being applied in a club that's meeting after school. Grants are used for all sorts of funding of all sorts of activities, and the grant funding rules require that no federal funds received by the district would be used to develop or distribute materials or operate programs or courses of instruction directed at youths that are designed to promote or encourage sexual activity, whether homosexual or heterosexual, or distribute or aid in the distribution of any organization of legally obscene materials to minors on school grounds. I'm not sure why I printed this before I came here, because I didn't know she was going to say that. But the point is, we all know that this is something that isn't for the school. It's not our jurisdiction. That's all.
I think we talked about the critical race and that nobody really is supporting that here. That's all. This is part of the curriculum that we adopt. So we're the overseers of that curriculum. But back to Julie, the grant money, the teacher just can't go off and make an application. There's a reason, for why they want that money, but it's got to be signed off by the proper people, the administration, teachers, the administration, to pursue. They can't just decide that they want to do something that we wouldn't approve of. You see what I mean? So I am not aware of any grants that we have abused or shared with things we don't believe in. We will continue to monitor that.
I would also just say what Jolene said. I'm not aware that we currently have abused any of our grant dollars or funds to promote something that's not been approved to the curriculum through the board at this point. So I don't know if that's the answer or getting at the question that you just asked, Nicole. As far as providing for sexual instruction, and I know you referenced kindergartners, I don't think sexual instruction for kindergartners is appropriate at any time, whether it's heterosexual couples or homosexual couples. It's not appropriate at that age level.
I adamantly oppose curriculum like that, and I also want to be a voice that is kind of looking up, because I personally believe that the government is going to start, as they're giving us our money, tying more and more strings to it to push their agenda, and I want to be a voice that says, no, that's not going to come here.
I have one more and then we'll take a break. First of all, I want to say you guys are super courageous. I'm so thankful that we have 6 people running for 3 spots, and I appreciate just taking that leap of faith and going out and pursuing this for the better half of the community, because I know that's everybody's intention up here. Another hard question. I know it's on the back of some folks' mind. So here we go. I know this is also happening in neighboring schools, not neighboring states, like in the counties surrounding us. Would you encourage or discourage biological males and females using the opposite sex bathroom or locker room if they identified with the opposite gender from which they were born? How would you address this issue as a school board member if a concerned parent came to you asking that you prevent a biological boy from using the girls' locker room or bathroom or vice versa? Thank you.
So
I can't remember who went first.
So we did a yes or no earlier. Do you want to hear what we think about it, or is that sufficient?
I think we've talked about this issue.
Yeah. We've talked about this issue.
I just came from 2 meetings, so if that question was already said, I apologize. Was it a thumbs up or thumbs down?
Well,
give your thumbs up or thumbs down.
We said
I discourage it.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
I think we make special accommodations for a kid who identifies separately and provide a separate bathroom, and we currently are doing that at Licking Valley now, and I would stick with that policy.
Which school's doing that? What school has a separate bathroom?
We do at Licking Valley.
I mean, there's like a high school, intermediate, and elementary. I have kids in the elementary school, and I don't think it's okay if a 5th grader and a kindergarten.
No. It's a separate, it's out in the office area versus.
So isn't that segregating a group of people who are trying to be inclusive of, like, hey, if you're a boy who identifies as a girl, you have to use this bathroom? I mean, that's segregation, right? I mean,
It's making reasonable accommodations.
Right.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks. I don't live in the district. I have 2 grandchildren that go to the school, and I have all their years. I have a son and his wife that live in the district.
Can't hear.
Oh, straight in. I don't sing. You don't want to hear me sing. So I have 2 questions. I just want to know if any of the candidates that are seated here today, or to this evening, first let me say thank you very much for running. I've been in public office 38 years, and it's a very difficult place to be sometimes. Moving on from that, thank you for organizing. Have any of the candidates been denied the right to request your child not to be permitted to view a book or books that you don't want them to see? Have you ever been denied that request by the school? Yeah, probably the easiest.
I'm sorry, what would you like us to do?
Whichever is best, most comfortable for you. Have you been denied, if you requested your child should not be permitted to view one of the books that you don't approve of, have you been denied that as a parent?
Yeah, I don't believe I've ever been denied anything from Licking Valley Schools.
Okay, have you ever requested it though?
Requested what?
Them not to be permitted to see a specific book that's in your...
Yeah, I've been working with the school board and the administrators for the last 9 months regarding this. Yep.
So you've not been denied?
I have never been denied anything by Licking Valley Schools.
That's great.
Yep.
I could just thumbs down, but I'd like to say more because I have 2 boys who started out as, or went through freshman high school, went through freshman English, and after the fact, I learned that there was a portion of a book where they went into great detail about something that starts with MAS and ends with TION, and I wish I had known about that beforehand because we would have talked about it. At our house, we'd have talked about it. They still would have read the book, but we didn't get to talk about it until quite a bit later when I said, "Did you all read that book?" "Mm-hmm," they said, and we talk about everything. I was kind of surprised they didn't tell me, but so that's my long answer.
So the others can do a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you've ever been denied, thumbs up. If you haven't been denied, thumbs down. Okay, good. Now then, look, next question, and I'm done. For those candidates that are parents, because I don't know who is a parent, who isn't a parent, have you homeschooled your children? And does that indicate you did not support the public school systems at that time, but now have changed your direction or focus? Now, thumbs up if you've always been in the homeschool or public school system. I guess to make it quick and easy.
That's me.
Okay.
So, I'll tell you my whole story, but I'll talk really fast. So, I have 4 children. The oldest 3 began public school as freshmen at Licking Valley. They were homeschooled from kindergarten up until that point. My youngest just left with, oh, she's back there with Daddy. Sorry, honey. She's a 6th grader and is still at home. So I'm running for school board, and I homeschool one of my children. 3 of them are public school kids. One's graduated. My freshman, Ruby, decided to stay home sophomore year. So we've done a great big mix. Now we do CCP. My husband is a public school teacher. So does that mean I was anti-public school? That's what you asked, I think.
I just want to know how you
Started out with greed. I didn't want them to leave. I liked them so much, I wanted them to stay home. And it started out also with a natural distrust. Maybe you guys have that, and that's why you're here tonight. What's going to happen there? I don't know. And then, oh, I'm so jealous. Your kids are getting taken care of part of the day, and I'm doing these things. And so great personal conflict, basically. But overall, I wanted to get to make the decisions for my kids. My husband and I got to decide which books they read, and then we decided they're sturdy, we'll send them. Not everybody has the freedom to make that decision, but I would support people who do make those alternate decisions. And that gets dicey, so if you want to ask me more questions about that, you're welcome to.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time tonight, because I know it's difficult and your hours are long with your personal lives, your professional lives, and now being a candidate.
Everyone, come on. It's my party. Me and you guys and Lionel Richie will stay here all night long.
No, that's not true. You used that joke already, Brian.
Oh.
Not to these people. These people didn't get that gold line.
That's right. So this is real quick, thumbs up or thumbs down. If it was up to you or the school board was voting on it, would you require our kids to have a vaccine to attend in-house or in-session school?
Would we require it?
Require the vaccine, correct.
y'all see the thumbs up and thumbs down?
Please stand up. We have more?
I have one final question. The motto of our school district is every adult helping every child learn and grow every day. As an educator that's lived in this district, not raised in this district, I'm a big fan. My job as a teacher is to love and accept and educate every child in my classroom every day and do everything I can for them. The discussion this evening has caused me a little bit of concern in regards to that. As a Christian woman, I have my own faith. I would teach my children kindness. I teach them that there is diversity in this world. I have a son who has went off to college and loves Licking Valley, but has gained so much perspective as a young man because he's been open to having friends in what you would consider diverse areas. So I just want to know, thumbs up or thumbs down, if my grandchild would be in one of these subgroups that you would consider diverse outside of what Licking Valley School District might consider the norm, would you support them every day? As a person on this board, would you serve every child every day with everything within you, no matter what? No matter if my child was gay, or if my child was confused about their sexuality, or if my grandchild has two mommies or two daddies. Because I know as a teacher, when I look at 26 kindergartners, and I have one little boy that has two mommies, I'm not going to teach that the only way a family is right is with a mommy and a daddy. That's my conviction. So I would just like to know, thumbs up or thumbs down, are you going to follow the motto and help every child in this school district learn and grow every day to the best of your ability?
Yeah, I personally think that deserves a verbal answer more than a thumb because it's so important.
Well, that's up to you, but I'd just like to see thumbs up and thumbs down if you don't want to do that. Thank you.
I just think it's important that you got video and you got record, that people are on the record instead of just thumbs up and thumbs down. This job is to serve all children. And so you have my full commitment. All children would be served and be loved by myself, my children, and my family.
I'm too a person of faith, and I believe in a God who loves extravagantly and without reserve. And I believe that God loves everybody, regardless of how you look, how old you are, how short you are, how smart you are, how abled or disabled, and no matter who you love, I believe God loves you. And I would do everything to support your child, your grandson, or whoever that person is in your family, and I will support every child in our school district and figure out the best way to provide for their well-being and to support them so that they're as successful as they can be in this school district.
We have little boys in our school district and little girls that have 3 mommies and 4 or 5 daddies, or who have 1 mommy and 4 or 5 daddies and none of them are there. We have every kind of family, absolutely. And I think the reason we started the evening talking about what a wonderful community this is because we love them. And we won't stop loving them. But our goal as educators is to you hug kindergartners and you hug first graders, but we teach them how to read and we teach them how to ask hard questions and how to communicate clearly and to think clearly and to connect dots. And if they continue to connect dots, they start to see how the world works and what type of family unit creates a functioning child. Where 5 daddies that aren't home doesn't shake out most of the time. And we can look at the statistics and talk about it. It doesn't make it any more happy or less heartbreaking, but I don't think there's any question that our teachers know how to love their kids in their classrooms. The question is whether they sometimes overstep the bounds. Not usually. And if we're sounding negative toward our teachers, that's a mistake. That's not the point. It's not, the school board should be backing the teacher and empowering them to get to do their job, which is care about every kid that walks in the door and teach them the things that are required, not just on the test, but the things that make them educated humans. I don't know if that answered your question, Jody. But.
I truly believe that each and every one of our staff lives by taking care of these children over and above and beyond. I know that they do things on a personal basis and reach out. I know we've helped feed these children. When they weren't in school, we made sure they had food. You've all heard from the backpack program that we send. There's children, if they're not in school on the weekend, does not have food. So we send food home, all levels of the district. So yes, I believe that our teachers do a wonderful job of embracing each and every child.
I do believe that it's the duty of the school board to make sure every student receives the same learning experience as every student, no matter their background, who they are. And by doing that, we're making sure we're putting the right administration in and the right teachers in that's going to create that culture.
And I agree with everything that all of these candidates have said. And I will say that every child is unique and every child has a different perspective. And I think that they all deserve to be fostered and learn and grow. And I think that our administration and our teachers do a phenomenal job at that. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm recovering from back surgery, so I'm a little slow. I just wanted to clarify, my comment was not meant that I feel like as a district you look at the teachers poorly in the curriculum they're teaching. I just wanted to clearly understand that you, as candidates running for the school board that supports an entire community of people, are going to keep that entire community in your head when you're voting for things as big as these diverse topics. So I just wanted to clarify that. I in no way feel that way as a teacher. So.
Do you feel comfortable now?
Yes, yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify. I wasn't coming to you as a teacher. I was coming as a mama and as a grandmama someday.
Thank you.
Hello. And you know me already. Anyway, as a current school board member, I won't take the time to answer some of the things that came at me tonight, but can't hear me. But anyway, social media. Social media has played a large part of this campaign this last year. And some of you may do social media, some of you may not. My question is, if elected as a school board member, will you still post on social media if you disagree with your administration, with your fellow board members? Will those posts still be coming out? Or how are you going to handle that after elected?
No, I have not posted anything negative regarding the school district or the current school board. I will say that disagreements when it comes to boards need to stay within the board. I think we need to be transparent to parents regarding why policies are the way they are. I think we talked about that there's never a no vote, and I think it's kind of, I'm assuming the discussion happens, but I think there just needs to be more transparency around why things are happening the way that they are.
I won't be posting anything on Facebook. I don't have Facebook. I don't want to go on Facebook. I have an Instagram account, and I have 15 pictures of trees and ferns and rocks and mushrooms on it. That's about it.
I do have a Facebook account. I don't post much, and I do enjoy the pictures to see people, the children, how they grow, and it's kind of connection to people. But when you're on the Board of Education, there's a lot of confidentiality that has to be put together. What you hear, sometimes you just can't share. You'd like to share sometimes with people, but there are times that we just say, we can't do that. We can't share that. It's personal. It's confidential. So it seems like sometimes you don't care, but that's not it at all. It's just what we're allowed to be able to share and what we can't. But when it comes to voting, once we vote, let's just say it's a 4-1 vote, as a board, we got to be together. So you have to you don't have to defend it, but you don't have to knock it down either. You got to be a team and work together and hopefully keep making it better. There is a lot of discussion. It may not seem that way, but there's a lot of inner discussion letting the board know what is going on. If something happens in a building, just to give them a heads up. So they do a lot of discussion that needs to be had. The board is free to ask any questions they want, but most of the time they have their answers prior to the meeting. So just want to clarify that.
That's a good question, Lucinda. Just like when you become an employee of any organization, your responsibilities surely change. So my Facebook activity will change for sure. I think that it's really important that there be accountability for the decisions that I would make as a board member. And one of the ways that you have accountability is by it becoming known what you did vote or what the discussion was. And the way that minutes are taken it doesn't include any discussion or any of the comments to the board, and that's one of the reasons I'm an advocate for videoing our meetings. I watched a Granville board meeting the other day, and I was astounded at all of the meat that you got to hear, because I'd seen minutes from their meetings, and I was like, oh, they don't really talk about things. Oh, but they did. So I think that social media is the way that a whole generation of people communicate, and it's useful for that, even though it also gets really ugly. There's a big spider up here. Thank you. So I think that social media from just like Licking Valley Schools and Licking Valley High School and the Athletic Boost, they each have a page, and it's helpful because you can go figure out the soccer schedule, and you couldn't find it anywhere else. So it's useful for accountability, and I would still want to post those things. But you never disrespect your people when you work with them. Does that answer that?
Hi. We've been here for a long time. I don't have social media. I have a LinkedIn profile, so if you're interested in following me, you can be up on the latest product releases that we have that is shared through my LinkedIn profile, but opinions are not shared. I think I have been, though, very direct in terms of when I have a question or I don't believe something is a certain way or something else, I've gone directly to the board and shared that directly to the administrators and directly to the superintendent. Not a big fan of social media, just that's me.
Also note, social media shouldn't be used as a discussion or disagreement platform for school board members, mostly because, as we said earlier, we are legally responsible to the public, and our discussions need to be in a public setting. And even though, yes, a Facebook post, you think it's out there for anybody to see it, we've said not everybody has a Facebook account, so that therefore it's not public to everybody. So that's why those discussions need to be kept to the school board meetings and not on social media.
With that, some of us have been around for the 30 plus years when there was some division, and I know we talked about that earlier. And so I congratulate all of you for coming tonight. And this is really tough, I know, to be thrown questions that you have no idea and be put on the spot like this. With that, I hope that we can be a community, we can be like they teach in Be Kindness and be a friend. And I did express that at the last meeting, that even though you agreed to disagree, we're still here for the community, we're here for Licking Valley. Keep that in mind. I ask you, I beg you, that's what's important, and that's why we're all here. And just every one of you, try to support each other, because we are coming from different aspects, but it's got to work together. And if there were some questions, Dwayne, or things you had that we couldn't speak to tonight, you can come up to me and Kim. We're more than happy. But there's some things we cannot talk about. That's how it is. Thank you.
Lucinda, thank you for your service. I said thank you for your current service. And thank you, Kim. And thank you, Jolene. You're on the board.
Do we have to go there right now? Sorry.
Thank you, Lucinda. She's getting ready to retire from the board, and thank you for all you've done. Thank you guys for tonight. I want to say one more thing regarding this book. It was brought to me, and I didn't tell my wife about it, and I left it in my truck. And she said, "What are you going to do if the kids see that?" I said, "That's kind of what everybody's asking." I thought I was asked. I was approached by a lot of people to put this thing on, and I thought it was because my integrity, but it's because I'm the one that has the microphones, I guess. I found out later. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for taking this grilling. This is what makes Licking Valley, Licking Valley. I appreciate all of you guys. This is a lot of time you all put forward tonight. Thank you so much.